Good evening.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Capital Improvement Committee meeting, the first Capital Improvement Committee meeting of 2021, April 5th today. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Okay. So it looks like we have Troy is here this evening, myself and Mr. Chairman Weber. It looks like we have Andrew Cutter, Chair of the Budget Committee, Mr. Bork, Chair of the School Board, and we also have Sean Flynn, who's was our Vice Chair last year, and Pete Stone, who is our Citizens Rep. So I'm going to basically, at this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll just, everyone can introduce themselves. So I'm Michael Croto, I'm the chair, and we'll go.
Stephen Weber, I'm the Selectmen's Rep.
Troy Brown,
Brian
Town
Burke.
Administrator. Okay.
Brian Burke, School Board Rep.
Sean Flynn, I'm the Citizen Rep and the Vice Chair.
Andrew Cutter, the Budget Committee Representative, non-voting.
Pete Stone, Citizen Rep.
And of course,
Jay McCarr, I'm just staff.
okay.
Yeah.
I knew there was someone I was missing. How are you?
I'll go ahead. Troy Brown, Town Administrator.
All right. So welcome, everybody. This is our first meeting of the Capital Improvement Plan for 2021. We're going to open it up. I know the second order of business, it says election of chairperson, and 3 is election of vice chairperson. So I don't know if you want to do elections first this evening. We can certainly do that. How we want to proceed with that. So,
That works for me.
okay. Any nominations for the election of chairperson?
I'll nominate Michael Croto for chairperson.
Okay. I have a nomination for Michael Croto as chair of the Capital Improvement Committee. Any other nominations? All right. You gonna make a motion to that, or?
I did. I just
Okay.
made a motion.
Okay. So it's a
Yep.
motion. All right. I just wanted to
Second.
make sure. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second. Okay. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of appointing Michael Croto as chair of the Capital Improvement Committee for the town of Litchfield, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained? All right. Motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 0, 0. And I will abstain. So actually it should be 3, 0, 1. So. All right, vice chair. Sean Flynn was our vice chair last time. Any nominations or motions for vice chair this evening?
I will make a motion for Sean Flynn as vice chair.
Okay, I have a motion for Sean Flynn as vice chair of the Capital Improvement Committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bork seconds. Discussion. All right. All those in favor of nominating Sean Flynn as vice chair of the Capital Improvement Committee of Town of Litchfield, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Anybody abstained? All right, motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 400.
We have 5 voting members
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
I
I'm
was gonna say,
sorry.
I think
Did
it's five.
who did I miss? I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. Yes, you're right. 500.
And I think for your chairperson, it was
First one.
401.
Correct.
What's that? I didn't
The
hear
other
what
one
you
was
said.
401. You had it as 301.
Oh, I'm sorry. 401. My correction. My apologies. Okay. All right. Well, the next item is public comment. I don't know if we have any public comment this evening. Does anybody, members of the public who wish to comment? I'll open it up to public comment at this time.
The chair, I don't see any members of the public other than the chief sergeant attending tonight.
Okay. Good evening, Chief. All right. Hearing none, and there's no one here I see in town hall, so I'll close public comment. Approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which was 9/23/20. Did everybody have an opportunity to take a look at those minutes? Have any questions, any concerns?
No,
And if there are no concerns, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
I have a motion, Mr. Weber. Do I have a second?
second.
I have a second. All right, discussion? All right, all those in favor of the approval of the minutes for September 23rd, 2020, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed? Abstained? Looks like motion passes 500. Okay, great. That brings us to update on CIP plan implementation. And for that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Troy. So, Troy.
Yeah, I put this here. I thought it would be good. The purpose of these quarterly meetings is obviously to make sure that the plan stays up to date and we address any issues that come up throughout the year. So I thought it'd be good to give you an update coming off the town elections of what we were able to begin to get got approval from the voters and we're beginning to implement those approvals. So one of the things during the budget discussion, the selectmen had a healthy discussion about whether they could support the fire truck for being placed on the ballot for 2021. And for the second year in a row, that was decided that they would remove it. They were dealing with the operating budget, some tax cap issues, and I think the pandemic also played a role in that as well. I can't speak for the board, but again, like a year prior, I think the thought process is that they would be bringing this back for consideration for the ballot in 2022. And I know the fire department, they have a fire truck committee that's been meeting now for almost a year. And I'm sure that they're still collecting information and be coming up with new numbers and a good plan. So, and I know the fire chief is here. I thought I heard someone say, so he could add, if you want, Frank, you want to add anything to the status of the fire engine committee's efforts?
Right, Chief Bratzel's not on the call.
Oh, I thought I heard
Depends
someone.
on
Who?
Chief Sergeant.
Chief Sergeant. Okay, sorry. So 2 articles that did pass was the road improvements, received 1,000 votes. So that was seeking the additional $100,000. That funding was reduced. Our CIP plan was looking to seek $200,000 a year. That got reduced to $100,000. But it was, it was better than nothing. And again, we were dealing with tax cap issues. And the plow truck, we were able to secure funding for an additional plow truck. So that was approved. And the plow truck, the cab and chassis has actually been purchased and it's on site. We've ordered the plow and the salter and those attachments, and hopefully, if everything goes as scheduled, that will be fully equipped and operational sometime right after July 1st. Road improvements, we're working with Continental Paving and the Board of Selectmen right now. Hopefully, at our next meeting, we will be approving our scope of work, and we expect that work to begin immediately after that decision's made. Typically, we work with Continental, and they try to take care of Litchfield before their equipment starts leaving town. So that's usually the way it plays out. We're very fortunate that we're able to get our paving work done quickly. And also, if you've been following it, there's some, we were able to work with the National Regional Planning Commission, the Planning Board, and the Board of Selectmen on putting together a grant application for a sidewalk to extend the sidewalk on Pinecrest from, where is it, on Hildreth? That's where it terminates, all the way to Albuquerque. So we're waiting for that. That'll, over the next couple months, we'll learn more about the progress there. But if we're able to be selected to proceed to the grant round, we're looking at this project being just over $600,000, and the federal funds would pay 80% of that cost. So it's a really good project. It really, accomplishes a lot of what the grants is, the mission of the grant, trying to connect our schools, just trying to create more multi-purpose trailways within our community. And something that, I think every taxpayer in this town is very well aware of. When we construct our pathways, as demonstrated, on a bike path on Albuquerque, where this town's committed to using it. It's used by all ages. It's used by folks that are not Litchfield residents. People do travel here to use our bike path. And the town's people are committed to maintaining it. We maintain it year round. We collect trash. We have doggy bags. We plow it immediately following snowstorms. And, not all communities can actually say that. A lot of times their sidewalk systems are not even maintained during the winter months. And there is no trash collection services that they provide. So, we hope that we're able to send that message through to the reviewing committee as another positive of seeking this project to be able to show that this can be a good demonstration project. So,
And the planning, I did write a letter on behalf of the planning board, and the planning board endorsing that project as well for the grant. So,
and the last thing I just wanted to point out is that there's not a lot of details, at least for me yet. But with the American Rescue Plan, from everything that I've been reading so far, it looks like the town of Litchfield, and this is just the town side, we could be eligible for up to $860,000 of federal funds that could be used as within the guidelines of the American Rescue Plan. And apparently these payments will be coming, the first round of payments, within a couple months. And we have until March the 11th, March 12th, 2024 to expend all the funds. And again, the guidelines, there's going to be restrictions on what these funds can be used for. But one area that definitely seems to be very clear is that things that we've not been able to do because of lost revenue, that we would be able to maybe, address those issues that were being cut back because of lost revenue. And one of those areas that I think would be easily, that we could point to would be our road paving, because we know our highway block grant funds were reduced. And I suspect that next year we'll see another reduction, because we'll see the full impact of the pandemic for 1 year, people working from home and just travel being decreased as much as it has throughout the pandemic. So, but those funds, if, once we figure out what the restrictions and uses and allowable uses are, could go a long way in helping us out with some of the items that are in the CIP plan.
Hey, Troy, it's Andrew. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Just a couple of questions on the sidewalk extension from, up Pinecrest. Does that include repairing and really replacing the sidewalk that's pre-existing from Rie up to, what is it, Hildreth? Is that the side street?
No, it doesn't. So the plan is actually to connect to the existing sidewalk and proceed from that point to Albuquerque.
Okay. I seem to recall that sidewalk was undersized, the existing sidewalk. Is that still true?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I've not read or heard that it is.
I seem to recall this being a conversation a few years back when the sidewalk was put to warrant. And we were talking about kind of the repairs and maintenance of the existing sidewalk, plus the costs associated with the new build of the sidewalk and what the curbing would need to change. So I didn't know if there was any thought behind that part of it.
No, right now we're looking. I'm sure that if we're awarded the grant, we start working with an engineering firm in the design of the new extension. That's something that could come up. It wouldn't be addressed with these grant funds because our grant application is very specific, and we would not be able to go back and get additional funds. But it would be something we'd probably learn about if it doesn't meet current standards, sidewalk design standards today.
Okay. And thank you. And on the American Rescue Plan that you mentioned, I know it's still very early and premature, but is there a possibility with the loss in revenue and given the costs associated with the fire apparatus that we could potentially use a good portion of that for a new apparatus?
I don't know. We're going to have to, really wait to receive more guidance. There's very little guidance out there at this time on exactly how we can use the funds.
The reason why I asked that is, if we think about the big plan that the committee adopted last year, right, and the master plan with the various levels of funding over the period, not having the fire truck last year just pushes that down the road to potentially this year, right? And if we can still achieve that without the impact to the total cost across all the projects, then that would seem to me like a wise decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Troy? Move on. Okay. Troy, anything else you want to address?
No, I think that's all I have.
Okay. I know we have representatives from the school on this evening. I know it's not on the agenda, but did you folks want to just review?
Mr. Chair, I've created a quick presentation I just want to give in terms of the progress of our projects as we go and the availability of funding in order to get to some of the things that we've prioritized in the capital plan. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen.
Sure. If the other members of the committee don't object, absolutely.
That come up?
Yep. Did hear. So.
Okay. Let me get back to my other screen. Oh, well, never mind. So as we started, there were two main objectives that were identified in the town capital plan that was approved. Number one being townwide for the replacement of Griffin Memorial School. That was put in as priority number one. And we had priority number two, which was the district-wide energy efficiency project. Now, that was identified by the school as our second priority. However, with COVID-19 and the need for proper ventilation in the schools, we moved forward and started working on all three school buildings. And at this point, as we move forward, well, let me start at Griffin now. I apologize. I was out of town this afternoon, didn't have a chance to go back over my presentation, so I forgot the order. But moving forward, for Griffin Memorial, we're going to start with the owner's project requirements, which are in draft form with our consultants that we've been working with, which is Windy Hill Associates in New Boston as an architect firm, and DDH Energy, which is out of Concord, and that's Dick Henry that worked with us. Pretty soon, we're going to be sending out an RFQ for architects for that project, so we can start doing planning as we're working at LMS right now. So we're hoping by this summer that we'll have an architect on board so we can start the planning process. That warrant article, consistent with the capital plan, is going to be coming forward to town vote by March 2023. So there's a lot of work on the back end going on. So we're just ramping up at this point. Now, in terms of district-wide ventilation, we've been working with the same two firms along with additional members of the team, which is Design Day Mechanical, Viking Controls, All Temp HVAC, and A&E Mechanical. All are great vendors. We've been working forward to make sure that we have adequate fresh air coming into all three of our buildings, and we came to find that through this process, we identified the ventilation systems at all three schools. CHS, we're fine tuning the control system that's gone in, working on that. So we're almost there at CHS. So ventilation wise, we're doing good. LMS, they're integrating the controls into the existing equipment. However, as we move into this two-phase project at LMS, those things are going to be improved along the way, and I'll speak more to that project in a moment. GMS, we're integrating the controls, and we found things that were never hooked up. The equipment was there, but they're not doing the right thing, to the point where Dave Ross, who's our facilities director, was down at, I believe at GMS, and both boilers were working independently, and they both shut off, and he thought something was wrong. But it wasn't wrong. It was that the control system was working and the heating system was working correctly for the first time since he's been there. And Dave has been there for over 20 years. So we're doing emergency repairs down there, of course, with GMS being our #1 priority. We're not going to move forward with large investment at GMS at this point. We're going to make the repairs that are necessary to make sure that the ventilation is comfortable, the heating and cooling is comfortable. However, we're not going to invest too much money in replacement of anything. We're working with what we have existing. So in terms of the LMS project, this past Tuesday, or 2 weeks ago, actually, we hired North Branch Construction as our construction manager. David Ely has been retained from Windy Hill Associates as the architect who's going to be with us through what I'll show as a two-phase project. The first phase this summer is going to be a main office renovation, which is a security upgrade, another security upgrade to the front of the building, where we're going to add a conference room off the main secure vestibule, so that when administration has to meet with people, they can meet in that conference room. That conference room does not have access to the rest of the building. So they will meet who they are meeting with out in the main security area and bring them into this new conference room. The kitchen renovation, where we're looking to create more space, that was also noted in the capital plan. We figure while we have a construction manager on hand and we already have a group in there, they're going to assess that situation and do that work for us as well. However, the priorities of the project, that piece of the project may defer till next summer in phase 2. We are looking at doing a roof replacement, which will basically be potentially reinforcing the roof and adding additional insulation to keep that heating and cooling in as we make our way through that. The added reinforcement potentially is because in phase 2, we will be looking at installing a solar array on the roof of LMS. And our goal at LMS is to achieve energy independence and use some of the money we're saving in energy in other means and to fund the project or any financing we may do. We'll be looking to upgrade the windows with energy efficient windows. Now, this Wednesday night, and I haven't seen this yet, there's going to be a presentation at the Facilities Improvement Committee, and then after that, it will come to the board afterwards. Our architect and our energy consultant have done infrared imaging of LMS and shown us where the leaks are, where the heat's getting out, where cold air is getting in. So we're going to be working forward with that. The front inner core at LMS HVAC 1, which is, it services the main office, the nurse's office, and also does guidance and a few other areas in the front of the building. That was identified as the unit in most need of replacement in the entire district. So we are going to work towards that and get that down, and we'll probably see what will be an example of what will happen in phase 2 of the project next year, where we're looking at potentially doing some kind of air source heat pump for the main office area with mini splits that will create a more comfortable environment in that area. That area has been a problem area for heating and cooling for many years. Moving on to next summer, we carry forward the kitchen renovation. As mentioned, the installation of a solar array and the installation of air source heat pumps for the entire building. As I said, the goal is energy independence at LMS. And pending our determination on Wednesday, as I said, we're meeting with the Facilities Improvement. We are reviewing the money that is spent on an annual basis on renting the portables and heating and cooling them and all those things. If we choose as of June 30th for the portables to be removed, then we are opening up funds that were used to pay that rent to help with our, either towards our project or towards heating and cooling at the other 2 buildings. That brings me to the funding strategy, the things that we've seen so far this year. So in here, as mentioned, the ventilation project, we've paid a good portion of it from the Supplemental Public School Relief Fund, which is noted there. That came from the state. That was in the amount of about $250,000. ESSER 1 grant funding, the CARES Act, the first CARES Act, actually. We received $56,500 from that. That has been spent. It's a reimbursement-based grant. Our goal with the LMS renovations is to use existing funds available to achieve as much as possible over the next 2 summers, and then look at a potential of maybe doing a municipal lease program to pay the balance. We're hoping that balance will not be that much, but we'll have accumulated savings in heating and cooling and utilities in order to pay that funding. And the rates for municipal leasing are at historic lows, and they continue to stay at that level. The others, so we have CARES ESSER 2 funding, which is also an ESSER reimbursement-based grant. CARES ESSER 3, more recovery money, where we're not sure of the exact amount on that yet, but that'll also be reimbursement-based. And having been to a couple meetings where they discussed, potential uses, repairing your roof and repairing your HVAC, all these things that are safety related type things or impacted from COVID are open and available for for reimbursement. As I mentioned, municipal leasing, the capital reserve, and expendable trust that we have with the town, that the school board is agents to expend if we choose to withdraw some money from there. Impact fees, which as a school district, me and Dr. Jetty are anticipating requesting a meeting with the planning board to discuss the impact fees that the town is the custodian of. And there's also FY21 fund balance. With closures and over time, there may be money available for us to move forward to use some of those funds to work towards the project at the end of the year, much like we did for the LMS canopy project. The last piece is the municipal bond vote in March of 23. So at this time, I apologize for being long-winded, but I welcome questions, and I'm going to unshare my screen unless there's anybody else that would like to see, anything you'd like to see again.
Anybody have any questions?
Hey, Corey, it's Andrew. Just a
Hey.
quick question. I didn't see anything on CHS mentioned.
CHS on this point, in terms of the ventilation project, we're almost there in getting the control system back to where it should have been when the school was built. We were very, very lucky when we started this project that the gentleman from Viking Controls was the gentleman that originally designed our system. So he went through and he's done a lot of the work, and we now have internal control over. So Dave Ross, our facilities director, can sit at home and he's able to, if he has a complaint or he's out that day, and there's a heating problem, he can log into his computer and he can pinpoint where that problem is at all three schools. So those are the major things that happened at CHS, was really just getting that ventilation right, because the system, as we have found, was never properly commissioned, or doesn't seem to have been properly commissioned when it was completed at the end of construction.
Yeah, I understand. But in terms of energy efficiency, right? I mean, it seems like the focus regarding energy efficiency is solely targeted around LMS and not CHS, even though CHS, as we're reminded time and again, is now a 20-plus-year-old building.
Yep. Well, our goal is to get, I mean, we want to go at one thing at a time, right?
Well, I'm just asking. I mean, this is a capital plan, right? So,
Yeah.
are you
Yes,
thinking about?
CHS,
Yeah.
I think once we finish up LMS and get where we really want to be with that, then that's going to be the model school for improvements in terms of energy efficiency up at CHS. So it's really a multiple phase project. So it will come down the road where when we finish up LMS, hopefully at the end of phase 2, then we'll start ramping up on what we want to see up at CHS. And in terms of the grant funding that we have available, CARES ESSER 2 funding is available for reimbursement through September of 23, and CARES ESSER 3 is going to be available through the end of September 24. So we'll use the funding that we have available and see what we have left in those grants to carry it forward energy efficiency wise up to the high school.
Got it. Thank you.
All right.
A couple of other questions, if I may. On the kitchen renovation for LMS, I know
Yes.
that was part of the capital plan, to your point, and not disputing that whatsoever.
Yep.
What was we went through a rating scale of each project. What was our rating of that project for the kitchen renovation?
Off the top of my head, I cannot remember.
It was a D.
It was a D.
And D
But
was,
I think the funding amount that we put forward on the capital plan, now that we've spoken to the architect and construction manager, it's going to be lower than what we anticipated in terms of a project.
if I recall, it was 200,000, right?
Yeah, and you know, we're working on, we do have preliminary designs at this point, but we need to get we have our first meeting with the construction manager tomorrow afternoon to review the project so they can start doing some estimates and quotes with their subs.
Thank
So
you.
D was desirable, and we had $300,000 in the plan for fiscal year 2022.
Got it. Thank you.
I highly anticipate that's going to come in less than $300,000.
Question on kind of the scope of LMS, right? I mean, for at least from my side, a lot of this is new news, which is fine, but not something necessarily that we talk about amongst the committee, such as installation of solar, such as roof replacement, such as the solar array, like or the HVAC one. I know we have identified HVAC and certainly energy efficiency problems at LMS, but I think this is just more specifically and targeted. You know, when I hear about roof replacement, I hear about solar. I think for a building that size, quite expensive. Should these be scoped as a part of the capital plan?
I mean, they could be added to we could revise the project sheets to reflect it. So we have to keep in mind that that roof on that building was replaced, I want to say 2008, and the warranty on it is voided. So to be able to utilize grant funding in order to get that piece of the project done, I think is extremely valuable. And in terms of going energy efficiency wise, if you're going to do it, you need the right layer of insulation in order to take care of it. So we could absolutely reopen the project description sheets and certainly revise them to reflect the things that we're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's supposed to be a living, breathing document, and the original scope was anything above $50,000, and I am certain a roof replacement as well as solar will cost more than that.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Why is the warranty voided? Just for the record.
I believe there was repair work that was done that was not compliant with the warranty. So there was a tear in it, and it was patched in a way that voided the warranty. Before my time, just relaying what I've heard from Dave Ross.
Yeah, that was my question too. Is it voided or expired? But I guess the answer is that.
It's voided, but it would be approaching expiration at this point. We've been pretty lucky with it, if you want the truth.
I think Andrew, I think we were talking about roof on CMS, if I remember correctly, early on last year. So I don't know if either one of those was on that list. We wanted to clarify and make sure that it was
GMS or the high school. I wouldn't at this point. Oh, at the high school. Yeah, that will be part of the additional projects that will be put on there as we move towards the high school to do.
Okay, I was just clarifying because I know we had talked about a roof on one of the schools last year.
Were we going to, excuse me, were we going to capture the roof in the capital repair reserve budget? Wasn't that the intent of?
Might not be what it was called out independently. I just remember us having a conversation about it. I just didn't remember which school it was.
I believe it was CHS also.
Yeah, I have CHS. Let's just see here. I have CHS Stadium Turf Field. I have LMS Additional Classroom. I have raise and appropriate $100,000 a year to address aging issues. I've just pulled up the slide deck that we put together for the school district. Yeah.
Yeah. It might have been the school presentation to us, Andrew.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything
Very
else?
If anyone, if nobody else has any additional questions for me, I'm gonna head if that's all right.
Anybody have any additional questions? I guess.
Nope, I think Andrew got them all.
Okay.
Sorry.
If any questions happen to come up, feel free to contact me at the SAU office. I'm more than happy to talk about these projects. It's actually pretty exciting what's going on in the school district right now.
Well, we thank you. We appreciate all that you do and all your time, and I'm sure we will be in. We'll have further discussions on this as we go forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay. I believe is Chief Sargent is on the line. Good evening, Chief. I wanted to find out from you an update on the police station or the police department. Anything new to report this evening in terms of what's going on with possibly having a new police department at some point?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Good evening, everyone. Nothing new to report. However, we have been doing some research, and it seems that there are going to be some good grant opportunities for different phases of a new station. It's just how we can access those grants, be in compliance, and what the timeline would be to purchase someone. So one of the newer grants that we found is one for a generator for a public safety building. So there's grants available for that. So another way to make good cost savings for the taxpayers taking advantage of these grants. The other thing is I did attend a New Hampshire Association Chiefs of Police meeting, and the president had some info on some capital improvement grants. We reached out to the state, and there's monies that are going to be available, whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the federal level, that hasn't been displaced yet. And so that's something that we're going to be monitoring to make sure that we can take advantage of any grant opportunity. Certainly the need is still there. It's been a good exercise, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to, take advantage of some of these grant opportunities. And that would be just about all I would have to report at this time to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Anybody have any questions for Chief Sergeant? Okay, thank you. Okay. So it looks like we have an overview of what's going on. I guess my next question is going to be, how do we want to proceed at this point in terms of, do we want to have something put together like we did last time for upcoming projects? Troy, what is your expected in terms of with meeting with department heads and all that sort of thing? I mean, are you going to be doing that again, or?
I've not really put that much thought into it. I mean, we had the plan that's, laid out, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that, if there's something new that comes up, then I guess that's, we have at least the quarterly meetings where we can bring this to the committee's attention.
Okay.
And I can certainly reach out to them, and share the plan with them again, have them take a look at it, see if there's anything that's changed in their department. Capital needs, they change every 6 to 8 months, 12 months, depending on certain things that happen.
Okay.
I think what we need to do is twofold. We need to first look at everything that was supposed to go to warrant and wasn't. And we're going to have to shift that through the plan, especially if we had things that we thought were urgent that did not happen. They're probably still going to be urgent for 2022. We have to look at that. And also at the same time, we need to look at, are there any future plans that are coming forth? Like tonight, we talked to the school and they talked about the solar, the roof repair and so forth. And I think we should capture those and put them back into the plan.
Yeah, I agree. This needs to be a living, breathing document. And, to the extent that it does meet the criteria of over $50,000 per our mission, right, then we absolutely need to be updating the plan accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, with Corey's new items, we might want to circle back and just see if there's been any additional thoughts or, modifications to existing thinking, just so we can update the document.
Okay.
I'm also thinking it's something you would look at on an annual basis, probably around budget season, as far as any updates you want to do to the master plan.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do we do with those? Do they just get folded in, or they go in as amendments?
That's a good question.
Jay may have an answer to that one.
Yeah, I think Jay would probably be the best person to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, we could just make those as amendments to the plan, and, the committee could vote on them, as appropriate. We might want to, this is obviously the discussion of the committee. We might want to wait to see what happens with those federal funds and the guidance that we get, because that may have an impact as well. But that's what I would imagine. Otherwise it'd be a fairly simple amendment.
Well, that's another interesting question, Jay. Do we still notate them and then mark them off as federal funds, and then, it just kind of builds a nice narrative to say they get knocked off?
I would, if it's going to be something as significant, don't know what the decisions are going to be, but, you know, let's say we decided that the bulk of those funds were going to go towards a fire truck. That's a pretty notable expenditure. So I would think it would be, yes, worth amending the plan to reflect it and then showing that those funds were federal.
Yeah, I just think it would be a good narrative to say, hey, look, you know, we were able to use federal funds to cover these costs, and now we're looking to move, you know, funds elsewhere. I think it just, you know, might make people feel a little better about cost spending other places.
Right.
So in terms of next steps, right, you know, what I'd like to see is at least some type of update that the committee can talk about at, I guess, our quarterly review in July. But I think to Mr. Burke's point, really in budget season, when we meet in October or even January, right, is when the board will make decisions and vote. Hopefully my audio is clearer now, by the way.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, John, for the tip.
Okay. So I guess, you know, do we want to, then I guess another question too, because there's a lot of stuff that we talked about last time in terms of, like, for example, what are the impacts if, you know, we have a new library in town, you know, what's going to happen to the old buildings? That's a discussion we probably want to have at some point, revisit that again. As well as, you know, we talked about the police department last time. You know, if we can't get a new police department, where is the police department going to go? Is it going to be, and where's the town hall going to go? So the things to keep in the back of, I guess, in the back of our mind, as well, as we go move forward. So I guess, my question would be, do we want to start and look, at which first? Do we want to look at town stuff first, or do we want to look at school stuff? Obviously there's a lot of new stuff with school. And we could, you know, depends what's the will of the will of the committee, how you want to approach it. And I'll leave it at that. So, anybody have any suggestions? Okay.
Do we have any kind of priority that will help guide our order?
Well, I guess that's the question. I guess I'm trying to get to ask is there a priority right now? I mean, I know obviously we know that, you know, GMS is a priority, but I'm in terms of, you know, for this part of the process into the 2021, what in terms of the town? I mean, you mentioned road improvements. I mean, is that the main issue right now, or is it something?
Yeah, I think I think what the Board of Selectmen will be working on. Obviously, we were very fortunate to be able to secure a plow truck. We learned that due to the pandemic, there's a shortage of computer chips. So the actual plow truck that we purchased was one of the last ones, I guess, in New England, laying around on a lot. It was a very basic truck, so standard cab, no bells and whistles. And there were other types of trucks that were quad cabs and had other, you know, features. But to get your stripped down basic plow truck, there was we've been told that we were able to get the last one, and there's a waiting list now. These other towns are waiting for the next deliveries to come in. So we were very fortunate. We secured the plow truck. We did that quickly right after town meeting, and now working directly with the Board of Selectmen Continental to finalize our paving program. And that's really the two big action items for 2021. We're working. You'll all start to see something when you go to the transfer station this week. We're working with a timber harvesting company, and they've started work today where they're working on the land that we purchased a couple years ago. And the whole intent here is to clear the land, and we're going to try to obviously cut back the bank and increase the site distance down there so people can enter and exit the transfer facility safely. And I think that's going to be easily accomplished, but you never know. I mean, there's no real budget or plan that's been put together for that. So it's kind of a build as you go. And then I think as we put together the warrant articles this year, really having a discussion about the fire engine. That's something that, it's a key to our capital improvements plan.
Right.
That is the next priority as far as the town side, and that needs to happen. And the timing of it, the way the plan's been put together, was that we try to get the fire engine purchased before the school goes with their big bond to do some of the school construction. And then we got the police station coming in after, the school is done. So if the fire engine fails again, that pushes the fire engine down the road maybe 2 years, because what we're being told is that if you're coming off next year at this time, we place the order for the fire engine, it may take a year and a half before that truck's actually delivered.
So if we point back and look, the only things that really didn't go through was the fire truck. We had less money for highway. The backhoe did not make it. And I think that was it.
Okay.
Now, then there was a Conservation Commission was looking at funding for $2 million over 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from the town standpoint, those are the only items that we're going to have to shift in the plan moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I think the fire truck is definitely number one on
It's an urgent.
I think one of the things I'm thinking through is more department size. So yeah, I agree. That's the, kind of what we talked about as we wrapped up the plan last year. But as we move forward now to April, and we're aware of new developments, coming online like Firefly, and a new development I think that's being starting to be planned where the horse farm is, the north side of town. Are the fire department and the police department and the other services in town adequately sized to accommodate this new growth that recently came about?
Good point.
Do we need to add, instead of replacing, obviously replacement of a fire truck is critical, yes, but now is there a need to also add an addition, right? What about, Chief Sergeant and your department? Do we need to add yet another a police officer and another vehicle, right? Because of these new residential areas being planned.
Yeah, then you have to go back and look at highway also with more roads.
Absolutely. I think all of it needs to be in scope again.
Because with Weatherstone coming online, road agent was telling me that's a plow route in itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think,
Well, I think the other thing is too, as these grants are starting to pop up, we need to kind of couple these things together to help with the narrative for next spring's warrants.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We need to dig. The government's giving away money like crazy right now. We need to see if we can get as much of it as we can. Because if we can offset anything, it might be easier to swallow.
Well, that's why I essentially raised the question earlier, and I'm not saying this is, the best use of the funds, but if there's this American Rescue Plan and the town could be eligible for up to $860,000, right? Well, and if we know a fire apparatus costs somewhere in the ballpark of 700,000, geez, that would make a lot of sense, at least in my mind. Now, I also know that there's restrictions and there's other departments who have their own needs, like Chief Sergeant, et cetera, right? So I'm not saying that's where that money should go. I'm just saying it would be a nice coincidence that it's in that ballpark. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure. But there might be other things coming up too that might just, we haven't seen yet. That's all. That might help.
So I know we have a lot of conversation about how we upkeep our buildings, and preserve the building. Is anything happening with the old fire department that we're still heating and everything else, and why we're not selling that thing or doing something with it and utilizing those funds?
Well, the old fire station, we go down there. Usually you have staff in and out of the building a couple times a month. I was just down there last week, so it's we still service the heating system. It's being maintained at, I think the temperature is set at like 58 degrees. As soon as the new radio communication project towers, when they come online, we'll be able to, we won't be required to use the air conditioning this summer because all that radio equipment will be removed. And probably, we'll just operate the building in the wintertime just to keep it from freezing, because we do use the bathroom facility in there. The cable TV operators will go over there and use the restroom. And it's being used for storage by every department is using it for storage.
It's a big waste of money though, isn't it? Really, for storage, for heating it, air conditioning it, and for the use of the bathroom.
Well, right now, the cable studio doesn't have a bathroom. So it really doesn't cost a lot to heat the building just to keep it above, freezing. The air conditioning is just unfortunate that the radio equipment is in there. If we don't air condition the building, the radio equipment overheats and it breaks down. And due to its age, sometimes it broke down last summer and we were afraid we weren't going to be able to get it back up and running.
But that's going to be removed shortly.
But that's going to be discontinued probably within the next 2 months.
So once that's done, is there any consideration of selling that building?
Sorry, Brian, can you repeat that? I didn't really get that.
Is there any consideration of selling the building was the question. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the board, but I know the board made the decision to repurpose that as dry storage, right? And as winter storage, which is the intention. So until the board makes another decision to sell it, I think that's the intended purpose. Is that not true?
I think that's true. And
That's true. As of now, the board has not come to a final determination of what we're going to do with the building. So right now we're using it as storage for other departments in town.
Okay.
But it's a fair point, Mr. Burke, because I also think that as a part of the school process, we need to finalize the long-term intentions of GMS, right? I know there was some comments made last year about just to take it down and to be done with it and to bulldoze it, right? But I do think that should be part of the plan as well. Because to your point, right, we don't want to be continuously maintaining it.
No, not at all. And I'm certain once we get closer to finalizing the plans and approval for a new GMS, then the shift will be redoing the existing building.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly right.
I mean, whoever proceeds come from that are going to help offset the bond or anything else.
So it looks like those are the things that we can sort of visit possibly somewhere down the next meeting or so forth, once we get an idea of what the projects are that we're looking for that have a specific need. I mean, the fire truck, obviously, backhoe, we can look at the old fire station, and basically those items, road improvements, the things that have priority as the focus sort of for the town, I think.
So in terms of measurable actions for our July meeting, can we make a decision and just say, we'd like to look at the numbers from the entire plan perspective at July, everything that didn't make it to warrant this past year, we can look at the numbers again in July, and then also roll in some of the school information that was presented tonight?
Yeah, I think
as an initial review.
I think that makes sense. I think having that, basically reviewing what passed, what didn't pass, and then what the specific needs are this time around, and both, maybe at the school, at the town level and then at the school level, especially with the information tonight received about LMS and all that. So I think that's a good starting point. And then maybe we can start prioritizing like we did last time, using our ranking system to see where we're at in terms of what the priorities are going to be this time around.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Sounds like a plan. Anybody else have any suggestions? I'm certainly open to any suggestions. I
I think that's a perfect way to proceed.
think that's a good starting point.
I think it's a great start.
Okay, great.
Get all the pieces on the table.
Absolutely.
Jay, is there anything else you would recommend?
You're on mute.
muted.
No, I think that approach makes sense.
Okay. Very good.
All right, great.
Awesome. Anything else anybody wants to add? Okay.
So in terms of the quarterly, I know one of the agenda items under 8 was future meetings. Are we still okay as a committee meeting quarterly? Next up, July?
I have no problem with it. If anyone else doesn't have a problem with it,
Quarterly
sounds
works
good.
well for me.
works for me.
All right,
Okay.
excellent.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I don't have anything else on this agenda for this evening, so our next meeting will be when, July?
July, we'll have to pick a date.
Date tonight?
Yeah, early July.
So it's going to be on an off cycle of the selectmen meeting because we want to use this room.
Okay.
So be what, 5th and 19th, Troy?
July 12, 19.
So probably, what do you think, the 18th?
No,
The
19th.
5th, is that a
That's
public
Sunday.
holiday?
Oh, I'm sorry, Monday.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
why don't we stay away from the 4th of July in case people are traveling? Why don't we shoot for the 19th of July
19th.
if that works for everyone?
That works for me, if it works for everybody else.
Good to me.
Okay, the 19th of July, 7 o'clock.
6.
I'm sorry,
6 p.m. still good for
I'm
everyone?
in my planning board mode. It's 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, great. Okay. I have nothing else. I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn if there's no other business this evening.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0. It's great to see you all again, gentlemen, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting all this wonderful stuff again and in the near future, and looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Have a good
joining
evening.
us this evening.
thanks, everyone.
Be well, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.